pros on social media as well. So why am I here? No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead, Mark.
Mark Harper. I'm with Revelation Media and iBible. Been in film marketing and distribution for over 25 years now, and worked on a lot of films. Have the privilege of holding up the arms of the Kendrick brothers and the Irwin brothers on a lot of their theatrical launches. I've done some other television and home entertainment promotions. Social media is where I'm least effective, but I've had to learn social media because I had teenagers that became adults now. So I still have way too many of those I'm trying to keep track of. But Doug.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Doug Weiss, and I'm the channel manager for ChristianCinema.com. Christian Cinema is a transactional platform. You come there and rent and buy films. I've been working in kind of film marketing and distribution for 20 years. 12 of the 20 years I was with the Jesus Film Project, involved with that ministry, doing marketing and getting the film out there. And so it's just great to be here.
Is that it? We want to press you for more.
Okay.
I guess we just wait for the questions unless you all want to start it out by talking about what you believe are the important basics of marketing and how to get involved in it.
I'll start. So I like to teach a workshop. I'm also part of ICVM, International Christian Visual Media Association. We do an annual conference, and the workshop I love to teach is reach and revenue. And if you thought of a triangle and you divide it in half, and inside the triangle is your story or your film. And I would encourage, let's not use the word content. Content just sounds to me like something you throw on a wall. Like, it's a story, it's a film, it's a message. And so if you took that story message, you divide it in half, part of it is the creative side, and then part of it is the business side. Because depending on what that film is, it's going to depend on how it gets distributed. If it's a short film, if it's a series, if it's a documentary, if it's a feature film, the other side has to do with the message and what you're attaching to it. And so it's going to dictate the marketing. So it's kind of three sides. But if on both of those two sides, one is about reach, because we make films and we tell stories because we want to reach people, and we want to reach a large audience, ideally, is probably what God's put on your heart. But you also have to create revenue so that you can keep reaching. So those are the two things. So I call it reach and revenue.
On the social media end, just encourage all of you, even you're making great films. Social media, I've met so many people who just say, I don't want to deal with social media. I don't want to have to even worry about that. Well, it is one of the necessary evils of the marketing industry. And if you want to get a much broader reach, that is where people are at, okay? So really investing a lot of time and energy into creating content on social media that resonates with the audience you're trying to reach. And a great way to do that, something I do, is I keep an eye on what all of the major studios are doing. Look at the way they are cutting their trailers, look at the way they are wording their posts, because they have the finances to back, market studies and things like that. They are going to be at the cutting edge of what is working on social media. So you're able to learn from their marketing dollars and figuring out what's working. Try and imitate that as much as you can in what you are doing, because if it's making money for them, they're going to keep doing it. If it's not, they're going to stop doing it. They're going to make changes. So follow other people's leads in that way. So lean into social media. Don't shy away from it.
Yeah, so I'll speak to marketing for home video release. If you've released the film and it hasn't gone theatrically, you want to just consider about what are all the marketing tactics you're going to use for home video. So you want to think about email, social, your website, and all that, and then think about your creative that is involved, your trailer, your poster images, and all of that. So it's as a filmmaker, your concerns probably is making the film and getting it done. So I would say, hey, find a company to partner with to help you, with your home video release, or get a creative, team that will help you do all these different components, so that, that's the most important thing, is that an audience then, sees the film that you made. And so you want to have all those different things in place to make that happen.
Good. Excuse me. We're starting to get the questions in. The first one that's there really interests me because I'm assuming it's to try to raise funds. If you look at that first question, is it important to produce a trailer in order to help raise funds? So the trailer is like a torch or a teaser before. This is starting to get more traction, isn't it? That you make that trailer. What's your thoughts? Does it impact you? You're more finished.
Yeah, I would say the trend has become largely because of Angel Studios, of creating a torch video, they call it, and they've actually got a cool backstory to the torch that I didn't know. The Statue of Liberty was crowdfunded, and that's why they call it a torch video. But yeah, I think if you can create a concept, you'll notice even on the Kendrick Brothers films, they'll often put out the heart of film or little promo clip first that's got people talking about, why are we making this film, what is it, and it'll cut to some scenes, it'll maybe show the real people behind it, and that's all about creating awareness. It's not about fundraising for them, but for now and for most people, I think, yeah, we're a sight and sound generation, and so writers love reading a big long treatment of what a story's about, but the rest of us, what do they say, that we have the attention span of a goldfish now on social media? We're all just scrolling.
I'm sorry, what did you say? I wasn't paying attention.
Oh yeah, it's the attention span of no, just kidding. So yeah, I think having some kind of video concept, if you can pull the funds together to do that well, I think that's key.
Yeah, I would say the same thing as far as everyone I know has a film in the works has a proof of concept, or some people call it a sizzle or a torch, where you are showing potential investors that you're not just staying up overnight and writing a script in 24 hours. You've actually put in the time and energy to hire some people who can put together a great looking product. Like Mark was saying, they don't want to just see words on paper. They want to see some example that, okay, you could do this, and so you're worth our investment. So I would say absolutely essential.
I think you're really trying to answer the question, why should I care? I think that's really why, in everything that people are seeing, why should I care? Why should I stop? What's going to grab my attention?
Well, the next one that really interests me on this is, do you use marketing funnels? If so, could you give example? Because I have no idea what a marketing funnel is, and I am wanting to know. So which one of the experts?
You start with, for your Revelation Media.
Okay, so I'm here on behalf of Revelation Media and iBible, and so we use the funnel concept. We'll acquire a film, and we'll put it online for free, but people have to give their email in order to watch the film. And that was partly birthed through the pandemic. We had released the animated Pilgrim's Progress movie in theaters through Fathom, and we were gonna do an Easter push, and when the pandemic hit, we thought, well, let's put it online. And we captured about 550,000 emails in doing that. And then we thought, well, what do we do with all those emails? In addition to promoting iBible, let's go get other films, bring in more emails, and serve that community of that audience. So that's the wide mouth of the funnel is really what you're trying to get, for social media. I'd actually be curious to know the data point between what website traffic used to be and now how many people they gravitate to social media first, and then they go to the website to get more detail, but they go to the social media pages first. And I would guess that would have something to do with age, but maybe you all could speak to that.
Yeah, so an example of a marketing funnel that we have done is a thing called More Than a Movie Night. So More Than a Movie Night is actually a guide that takes a family through a conversation about a film. So in the guide, it contains a synopsis, an activity to do, a snack, and then discussion questions that the family can talk about. And these are all sorts of films. And so last year we produced like 40 of those. And it's just a great opportunity for, families to come together, watch a film, and talk about it. But we're using it as a way to be able to get, email addresses. But it serves a purpose more than just getting an email address.
No funneling for you?
No funneling for me.
I guess I left out the important part, the bottom of the funnel. What are you trying to move people towards? If you're attracting attention, you're getting them to like your page, follow you, what is the end goal? So what action are you moving them towards? If you're a nonprofit, you're really trying to move them towards a donation and getting behind your film. I'm just curious real quick, how many of you are first-time filmmakers? Okay, and how many of you have made a film of some kind and you're still trying to, how many of you are looking for distribution? Okay, good to know.
Good to know. That second one there is the little known secret in the marketing industry. Are we giving away secrets? Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm assuming you all have a different secret you want to share. Sounds like Oprah. You have a different secret you want to share? You want to go first there? Marketing. Keep it to marketing.
Hire Mark. Yeah, no. I would say a little known secret is actually email is a huge driver. So if you're a filmmaker, you probably don't think about, I need an email list. But I mean, you can put something on your website and just try to get email addresses. If not, go to a company that has emails. And you use email to raise awareness, to drive sales, to drive people to the box office. It works.
I would say building audience loyalty is massively important. That I think it's an underutilized thing that can really give you a loyal following rather than just viewers. If you have people who are on your team and watching your content, you're going to have a way broader reach than if you're just posting stagnant content. I'm talking from the social media angle. You're just posting behind the scenes photos. You're not engaging with anybody in the comments or responding to messages you might be receiving or emails. If you are making people feel like they're part of something bigger than just watching your movie, you will have an army of supporters. So really focus on engaging with your potential audience.
I think a little known secret, there's several. The one I find oftentimes, because I've been doing this for long enough where I've met a lot of people that have gotten into this field, is we just think the audiences are too small. Like the audience is so much larger than you think. I was at dinner with some of a newcomer group here this year, Soma Games, and they're back there. We were talking about the movie Avatar. And if you're just out in your day-to-day life, just try this as an experiment. Now the new Avatar movie came out, so it may not be as good of an example as it was 5 years ago. But if you just ask the average person, hey, have you seen the movie Avatar? You'd be amazed, a cab driver, a waiter, someone at the store that haven't seen the movie. And with faith-based films particularly, if a pastor said how many people have seen Fireproof in their church, I would almost guarantee it would be 50% on average in the church. Dave says lower. And Dave with Bridgestone Media Group has many more years in film distribution and marketing than I do. So the audiences are huge. So one secret is think big. The other secret that these guys could probably tell you more about is big data. All this behind the scenes information. If you don't have retargeting on your website and you're trying to promote one of your films, retargeting is a very low cost way to market back to someone. How many of you know what retargeting is? So retargeting is Google Analytics, and it puts a little pixel and it's the cookies when you accept the cookies. so that you can do an ad. You've experienced retargeting if you've looked at, let's say, tile floors, and then you're on a completely separate website, and it's, oh, tile floors, oh, they're eavesdropping on me. No, they're not. They're retargeting. So retargeting, I think, is a little known secret. And then big data, so email addresses. You can drop email addresses into Facebook. Facebook has gotten very aggressive in limiting political and religious marketing. You can drop emails into Facebook, and it can show you what a lookalike audience is based on the data that Facebook has attached to those emails. So you can do targeting and marketing to people who have bought movie tickets online, people who, well, again, the religious stuff, you guys would know more about that, how you could trick around that. But just understanding big data and working with a marketing team that's not just charging you a big retainer up front, but they're actually delivering value to you and helping you grow your community of people. Sorry.
You happy with that answer? You happy with Mark's answer?
Absolutely.
Okay. What I find fascinating is there's a huge diversity of talent and projects here. You have individuals who are starting out, and they have their very first film. Then you get into that next tier where you've gotten more budget, more project, more. What do you say to that person that's on their second project wanting to break in a little higher up? Do they market it? There's a question about short films. How do you get influencers, or how do you get word of mouth for a smaller project so you can start scaling up? Do you handle short films on your platforms?
Yeah, we have short films on our platform. And so I always say, like, short films are like your calling card to a feature film. And so there's not a big financial gain in short films, but if you go to festivals with the short films and you start getting a built-in audience, and then you get people to, like, okay, get notice of what you're doing, and then you stay engaged with those people that are, watching your short film. I think that's a good thing. And you never know who may see your short film and say, like, hey, I want to make this into a feature film. So just, I guess, always think about, like, okay, don't just think about it as, oh, this is just a short film. Do the best that you can with the short film, and it can lead to more opportunities.
Yeah, as far as you mentioned influencers, yeah, most mainstream films are using influencers to their advantage. There's ways to submit your content for influencers to look at and potentially either attend some sort of premiere and document their experience at your premiere, or write reviews on their platforms, so that you can just get a very broad, like a shotgun approach, basically, of some heavy hitters. And it's a very effective tool to market your movie. And there's companies out there that will like, you submit your film to them, and they will figure out which group of influencers would best promote your film.
There was a platform called QB. Do you guys remember that? It started with a
Yep.
Q. Like $1 billion they were funded, like some major Hollywood influencers. And they were creating little mini episodes, Someone's waiting for an Uber and they can watch an episode, And they caved and they went under. And it was because of the pandemic, because people were home, and now they're having to watch all these mini episodes, and it wasn't just a film. So short films is where we're headed. I mean, that's what episodes are. Yeah. And now there's no rules. It used to be with television distribution, you had to do a 28, or no, that's non-commercial, 28:30. I don't even, 24:30 was a 30-minute television episode, because you had to leave room for commercials.
Now it's 22, I think.
Okay, yeah. So, but with streaming channels and with YouTube and other, Instagram Reels and whatever YouTube calls them, shorts, or and then of course TikTok. We live in a short film generation now, and so it's all storytelling. And I haven't seen anybody the Irwins, the Kendricks, Cristianos. I've not seen anybody that hasn't had to stair-step their way up to success and great reach and revenue. So starting with short films, and there are some incredible YouTube stories of films that went viral, and then they're getting paid for every 1,000 views, or how does YouTube monetize? 3 cents every?
It's per view.
Yeah, some people don't turn ads on there because we have our message and we want to be pure. We're not selling out, and it's like people are used to skipping ads or waiting through an ad. So if you're not putting stuff out on YouTube, then you're missing a chance. But putting video native into Facebook, not putting a YouTube link, is important because then Facebook will give you better algorithm results. And so you just have to treat each platform with its own finesse. And but short films, I think, very much so can be monetized. And somebody else I think YouTube just recently did another new improved way for content providers to get revenue. So, sorry.
I'm from the world of short films. You know, our students make short films constantly, and their senior projects are about 8 to 10 minutes because we found that that's what really works in film festivals. Like you're saying, the film festival is the best way to get your name out there. You know, plan to budget $200-300 or more just to enter these film festivals to get your film out there, and then release it and let people know your project. I had a student in my office one time who did not want to do this project because he felt it was not anything worthy of people's time. His dad was a pilot on Flight 93, 9/11. His dad was scheduled, and the last minute got bumped. And the student didn't want to do the project because he felt like his dad's ministry would be diminished because of that testimony. He finally did the project. It's called In My Seat. 2.5 million views within a relatively short ministry of time, and his dad's ministry skyrocketed because of that short film. And so, you know, short films are just this incredible way to get your name out there and to get working at it.
One short film I like to tell everybody about, it's my favorite short film of all time. It's called The Butterfly Circus.
Oh, it's my favorite.
Josh and Rebecca Weigel. And that short film has had over 100 million views. It went internationally. They get so many testimonies. It features Nick Vujicic, who's got no arms and no legs. It's just a beautiful setting, cinematography. It's just gorgeous. TheButterflyCircus.com. And that gave them so much credibility, and they want to make a feature film based on that. But now they've got a feature film that should come out in theaters in November because of that credibility and of that reach. And I worked for Mark Green when he started Into the Spear and Beyond the Gates, and they have a saying in their family: you can't outgive God. So if you're putting a short film out there and you're like, man, I really wish I could charge money for this, but you're only selling, a few video or a few downloads a week, and it's actually your mom and she's doing the credit card, I'm kidding. Then put it online for free and watch it go viral, and let's see what God does with it. If you told a story that's compelling. Sorry, I'm going deep on the short film because I love short films.
I love that short film. That is one of my favorite short films. I've always wanted to see it made into a feature.
Plus, we live in the church community, and pastors, there was a whole window of distribution that opened up through Sermon Spice and Worship House Media, and then other distributors emerged. And that was actually, there were several media people in churches that got put out of business because the pastor could then just buy media clips already. It also employed a lot of filmmakers because they could make something, and now it's being used by 1,000 churches. So that idea of syndication and making a film useful, and making it useful for ministry, that's a whole other secret probably, is affinity marketing around films.
That first question, do you have any examples of Christian films or shows that use digital marketing well? You all are in this field. Is there one that you felt that either you were a part of that was done really well, and then maybe someone else's that you felt was done really well and influenced you?
I'll give an example of one that I was involved with. So there's an organization out there called the National Bible Bee. It's where children memorize scriptures and lengthy passages of scripture. So Bible Bee created a game show called the Bible Bee Game Show. It's hosted by Kirk Cameron. And so they were trying to initially look at how to get the program out there on television. So at the time, Facebook Live was getting going. And so we started to put the episodes out there on Facebook Live every week. And it was amazing how the audience grew. So there's 30 episodes of this. So for 30 weeks, myself and a team of people moderated comments on this Facebook Live every week. And then and after that, each episode was over, we put paid media behind it on Facebook. And so we're able to garner about 1 million views per episode on Facebook Live. You could go out there and still probably find the posts for it. As a result of doing that, it helped the National Bible Bee grow by over 40% the following year, and they're still they still employ this strategy of using clips of little kids saying Bible verses on their or on their Facebook and also on Instagram, and their pages have grown exponentially just by using these clips, and their organization still is continuing to grow.
I would say The Chosen is probably one that I have seen that has done an incredible job at digital marketing for their show. So if you're looking for good ideas for branding, consistency across platforms, I would study how they have done things. They are probably the most consistent that I see on all of my platforms in how they do it, and the look of it is incredible.
Yeah, and to follow that up, you can say, oh, well, it's The Chosen, it's the life of Jesus. That's going to be as successful like the Bible is as a book. But then they also followed it up with Wingfeather Saga, which was one of the most successful crowdfunding raises for a kids film. And they're continuing to do a good job now. Whether that pay it forward model is going to work for Wingfeather Saga or not, they're still creating a lot of eyeballs. Because that's really what we're talking about, right? It's about creating views and capturing attention. I would say now, I think when you think about where you are now, where you want to get to, if you're not thinking about a brand, who you are, what's your company name, what's the film you're making, you can get down the road, and if a film of yours takes off and that film has a following, the movie To Save a Life, when we put that out in theaters, we ended up with 1 million people on the Facebook page. And then we had to repurpose that Facebook page because we didn't put it out under the brand of the film company that made it. And they actually didn't do another movie, so maybe that was okay. But just being forward thinking a little bit to try to make sure you lock that in, because for digital marketing, it's really about, do people remember you? That's what a brand is. What do people remember? Oh, those are the guys that do this. There is a Portuguese or a Brazilian company that's doing digital marketing really well. I can't remember the name of the channel. It's like 3 something. It means 3 words, but they have a massive subscriber base. One of them has 7 million, the other one has 51 million or something. Redeem TV has a really good subscriber base. Encourage TV with BMG, is that right? Encourage TV. They've got a really big subscriber base. I mean, YouTube Movies has 160, maybe it's, last time I looked at it, 160 million subscribers. And when people hit YouTube, and YouTube has one of the best algorithms. If you've watched this, it's going to suggest the next thing for you to watch because they're trying to create viewership. And so YouTube, having a YouTube channel and using that marketing and finding out who's doing it well, they're not known to be faith-based, but the guys that do all the basketball shots and the water bottles, what's the name of the guys? Dude Perfect. I mean, they do digital marketing really well, and they're Christian guys. And so, anyway.
Good. There was one up there that caught my attention, documentaries. Any of you have experience or advice on raising grant money for documentaries? That's a tough one. But the power of a documentary is incredible. Have you ever had an experience, or how do they perform on? should we just move on?
Yeah, yeah. So documentaries are interesting. So they actually do pretty well on Christian cinema. People are interested in the true story, and so I think documentaries are. I mean, you can go a number of directions with them. I think I think I think it would help drive or help fund a documentary in a sense, or help drive it is like if there's like an organization behind it, like the story behind it, so you can kind of go out and you get their kind of donors, involved with the project to help fund it. I've seen. Different, like I think Samaritan's Purse, and I'm trying to think of a few others that have
To the ends of the earth.
to ends of the earth. Yeah, have different documentaries out there, and so I think that's a good way to start. I mean, if you're a documentary filmmaker and you're saying, okay, I want to find a project, you could go and partner with an organization and say, hey, do you have a story to tell, and go about it that way.
Getting someone attached with it, an organization or a person, another influencer, things like that, really work well. Also, just Googling grants for film. There are states that will grant money depending on what the subject matter is. And if you can write a really good grant and show the need, there are organizations that will give the money to help that cause.
I think just to underscore that, the cause and the affinity around the film and the story that you're telling, going back to the secrets question, because it affects this for documentaries, you really have to know your audience. And you may think you know your audience, but if you haven't done any real testing, put something out on social media, how many likes does it get? Put a description out, put a visual out, just see what kind of traction something gets. And it'll help you really know your audience. But when you are talking about a documentary, so when we did the Beyond the Gates of Splendor documentary, there was a group called the North American Forum of Bible Agencies. And that was the primary reason why Mart wanted to tell the story, was to show the power of God's word to transform lives. So those agencies helped promote the documentary that preceded the feature film. And then To the Ends of the Earth was done by Mission Aviation Fellowship, and Collide Marketing helped them roll that out as a Fathom event. And what I heard back is that Mission Aviation Fellowship said it increased our donors, it increased our emails, like it was a very positive experience overall. And Fathom is a great way for documentaries. Where theatrical distribution didn't exist before for documentaries, Fathom has really emerged as a major distribution channel in our ecosystem. And so getting a documentary idea in front of them to say, yeah, this is something we would be interested in, might help you with that fundraising also. But if there's a ministry or mission attached to the story you're telling, that's who you ought to be talking to first, for sure.
Any follow-ups? That top one, what are the most effective social media elements to bring attention to a new series or films? Best content to create to gain followers.
First things first, make sure you have your best foot forward before going on to social media. You do not want to start a social media page for your film or for your production company and it look less than stellar. Okay, so I would make sure you are very happy with the brand. As Mark was saying, brand is huge. So you want a consistency across everything that you're posting. So I would say do that before launching into it. As far as gaining new followers, that is somewhat unpredictable. You can YouTube a lot of great influencers who have a lot of great ideas about how to gain followers, but most of them at some point will tell you it's unpredictable. Due to the algorithms on each platform, they vary drastically. For example, when I create Reels for my personal Instagram, when I knew that Reels were #1 as far as exposure, especially to new audiences, I would have ones that would have 200 views that I thought were great, and then one that I thought was subpar would get 100,000 views. So in that way, it's all about testing. Figure out what's working, and then be humble enough to change what you're doing to meet those criteria of what's working. But encouraging people your loyal followers to help you spread the word. One thing that has worked immensely well for me is someone told me very early on when I was starting to build my audience and figure out, okay, what works, what doesn't work. Someone said, ask people. You'd be shocked how many people, if they were just asked to do you a favor and help you spread the word about something, they'll do it. But we just feel weird about it. It feels desperate, especially when you're a small page. You think no one's taking you seriously. You don't want to look desperate and saying, hey, we're trying to grow our platform. Here's an idea. I've done this where I say, message me if you're interested in helping me grow my page. And then when people message me, I am able to have that personal engagement with them, and I give them 3 things they can do to help grow my page. Most of them do it, because if you have a loyal following, they're going to want to help you in any way they can. So, branding, get that personal relationship with your core group of people, with the goal of bringing more and more people into that core group.
Looking to you. Anything? Okay, so we have 3 experts up here who are influential in marketing. This is your career. This is where God placed you. If someone is interested in this field, what are some good skill sets for them to have or to work on, or some disciplines for them to build upon to get into this field?
Yeah, I would say I would go out and see if you can become, intern or become a, offer to do marketing for somebody's film, or if you could get paid for it, that's even better. But I would say if you're just getting started, I would say learn how to do Facebook ads, learn how to do email, learn the different solutions out there, and just look at what other people are doing, and just follow their example, and then just put yourself out there and saying, hey, I could probably help you do this. And a lot of times if you're filmmakers, you probably have to do it yourself. Posting your own social media, that may be the best place to start. If you're not doing it, it's just be sure you're posting your social media about the things you're working on, and then look at using YouTube. As you're shooting a film, do like some type of daily videos or something, and get them out there on Facebook and YouTube. So that's a good place, I think, to start.
I think the same thing is true for filmmaking. You start right where you are, and you see where you have success.
Yeah.
And when you start seeing success in something, that's because it's probably helping someone, it's reaching someone, and maybe that's what God is blessing. Some people say run after what you're passionate about, and I absolutely 100% agree with that, but you also have to be skilled at it. Because if you're passionate about it but you don't have skills, then you're not going to see any incremental success. So I'd say start wherever you are, locally. Someone in your church or a friend that needs help with this, and you start helping them. And if you're able to grow an audience and grow a following and get sales, again, followers and audiences are great, but it's got to convert to revenue. And otherwise that ministry can't get donor dollars, or that business can't keep growing. So it has to convert. And that's where I see a lot of efforts in marketing just almost wasted. You spend all this to get impressions, but if it's not converting, then you really don't know and there's so much available to us now to know digitally what is converting. And that's where you should focus efforts. So if you're into marketing, what are you finding successful right where you are, and then start doing more of that.
Aaron?
Yeah, in the social media realm, I would just say if you want to get started, number one, be observant. Okay, look at the people who are creating content that you want to create, observe, educate, go on YouTube. There is a plethora of resources available that will get you started on that journey. And lastly, be teachable. I have met a lot of people who have, when trends change, and they change very, very quickly. For a while, Facebook was all about 3-minute videos. You want 3-minute videos so that when they first started competing with YouTube for ad revenue on videos, I was one of the initial, they called it a creative launch pad, and they were picking micro-influencers, which I was one at the time, and we had one-on-one coaching sessions with Facebook reps. They were giving us ideas for how to make these 3-minute videos that were the best that they could be, and then they were marketing our videos for us and creating incredible amounts of engagement and just that coaching. But that is long gone. Facebook has moved on from that. Instagram, when Reels were becoming popular because of TikTok, I met people who were doing similar work to me and were just like, I just don't want to go there. I don't want to do that. I just don't have time to do that. You're missing out when you're not willing to flex with where the trends are going. And so be flexible, be teachable, try them. I didn't want to do Reels either. But once you start doing them and you see the type of engagement you can get, it works and the results are powerful. So keep an eye on those trends. Instagram, the CEO of Instagram, follow their page. He gives updates about what's going to work. So recently it went from Reels, Instagram's backtracking and saying photos. We want photos again. We've heard you. We hear that a lot of people want it to be what it used to be. So now engagement on Reels is drastically diminishing. Photos are going up again. So those kind of things. Watch the market, watch the industry, and piggyback on what's working.
I'll add one more thing. So one thing you want to do in all your digital marketing and as you're getting into it, and even if you've been in it and not doing it, is be sure you have things in place to measure everything. So pixels, Facebook, Google, you're going to use tags, Google Analytics on your website. So you want to put a bunch of things in place to be able to measure so you can see the results. And then that way okay, what I'm doing is successful.
So that makes me think of what you're both saying, all three, in fact. What are some places that you reference, that you look to, professional trades or websites that influences you or helps you in your field?
This goes along a little bit with that observation comment. For me, when people reach out to me and say, hey, you remind me of, I go to their page and I look at what they're doing and learn from who people think I'm similar to. And that's helpful with films as well. What's your film market? People, a lot of times when you do, you're trying to promote your early concept of a film, you come up with, this movie is similar, like in a pitch deck. You'll say this movie could be similar to, and you list the films that you think the style and the mood fits. That type of study is super helpful, where you look at the other films in the industry that are aligning with the type that you're making and imitate.
I use this one really not very known website called Google, and I'll say...
You think it's going to be big? Should I invest?
I think it's going to be big one day. And I'll say, 2023 best Facebook advertising trends or something like that, and see what trade articles pop up. And that's usually what I do for whatever, if it's email, if it's Instagram, whatever the latest trends are, that's how I tend to try to find out information. It's not one particular source.
Yeah, I look at, what other people are doing, and doing it well and see what they're doing. But then if you could find out, well, how did they get where they're at to do things well? And so one thing that I found fascinating is this was probably 2 years ago. I was at the NRB, National Religious Broadcasters Convention, and the Chosen team was there. And one of the producers of Chosen is Daryl Eves. He's like a YouTube expert, and also people from the other team were there, and they were talking about, well, how did they get started? And so they said, oh yeah, we read this book called Primal Branding, and that's how we got our model for building this, the marketing that kind of launched The Chosen, and it's like, oh, okay, you read a book. And so if you could find out kind of the people that are doing it well, like how did they get to where they're at to do it well?
There's nothing new under the sun.
That's right.
It's a great quote. Okay, so where do you see a trend, a prediction? You can predict right now, where's this all going? What is a trend that's coming up that you feel is going to really take hold and the next step? So you're in streaming, you're in direct marketing, and you're influencing.
I would encourage all of the people who are filmmakers in the room. I do think we are on the verge of a renaissance in this industry, in particular the faith-based film industry.
Yeah.
So be encouraged. In the past decade, there has been incredible improvements made in this particular circle and realm of influence. So I would just encourage you, what you're doing and what your goals are, the trend is in the right direction. So keep it up.
Virtual production, meta, VR, that is where everything is headed. I mean, there's already a lot there. So talk to the Soma Setworks people that are here. They're working in that. But no, just more immersive content, more experiences, you know, that's just what people crave. They want to experience them. That's why they still love going to the movies, because of the large sight and sound experience, and they can feel something. Because, man, sitting at home and just doing this, you know, it's meaningless. Getting back to our friend who wrote Ecclesiastes, you know, nothing new under the sun. So, yeah, I think all the XR, extended reality, augmented reality, virtual production, and gaming. Gaming dwarfs the film industry. And there's a lot of storytelling in gaming, and it's interactive. And now you're getting movies based on games. So that's another huge trend. And I know that as Christians, we're like, oh no, the gaming, you know.
Well, you know, I look at it as a teacher, 19th century photography, it revolutionizes painting. It changes the industry. 20th century, film comes along. In the early onset, what do you do with film? People, the Lumiere brothers who invent it, sell it off because they don't see a future. And so even, you know, all these things in 21st century, games, cutscenes, and that interactive experience, being a part of it, wanting to experience more than just what's in front of us. In some ways, films is not dead, but it has to change so much to be able to interact and to be able to reach individuals. What do you got?
Yeah, I would say with streaming and the audience is leaning heavily towards streaming and seeing, you know, how the theater numbers are, though theater numbers seem to be ticking up again. Is you have an opportunity to, you know, create more niche films, because in streaming it's like you could go after a specific audience. And so I think there's something there to think about. It's like you don't have to, you know, say, okay, I need to sell this many tickets because, you know, I need to get back all my P&A in this film because I've gone theatrical. With streaming, it's like you got a bunch of windows that you could work in, so you might be able to go after kind of a little more niche audience with something.
I think for most of us in this community, I've been using this word ecosystem lately, because as we look at what's happening in the major outlets and how they don't want Christian content and they're limiting the reach of Christian content, I do think there's going to be more, there's going to be emerging more communities that are delivering faith content and funding faith content. And so I do see a trend moving more towards, there'll be another competitor to Angel at some point. There really still hasn't been. I mean, PureFlix, you know, now is owned by Sony. They've got a large community, but I think there'll be another PureFlix. So I do think that there's a trend that's favorable to this community because of the content you're making and the audiences that want to protect what their family's watching. So I see that as a more immediate trend.
You just can't discount that the fact of God being sovereign and in control of things. You know, with the Kendricks, their first film, it was not a theatrical release. They weren't looking for theatrical releases, and then God opened that door. Or Dallas with the resurrection of Gavin Stone. I love that film. Anybody see that film? I loved that film. It was incredible. And I watched the trailer and I thought, that's not that film. And it just fell apart for him. And then God opened that door again for him. And I see that so many times marketing, they have that intention and that best idea, and it's just a moment that breaks it open, and it has to be God.
I have a funny Dallas story. He did a movie. His first movie was called Hometown Legend.
Oh, yeah.
It's a football movie. It's really well done. And it didn't hit any big numbers either way back then. But I remember talking to Dallas at one point. He said, I don't want to make Christian films. I don't want to be a Christian filmmaker. Right. And I think now he's made one of the most successful Christian films of all time. And it's still going places. And then John Irwin, at one point, he was looking to enter in, or he had entered. Steven Spielberg had a reality series for young filmmakers. Yeah. And John was like, man, do I go mainstream first and then get more faith-based, or do I go faith-based first? And it's just been neat to see how God directed their steps, but it's focusing on that faith audience and the faith community. And again, that's a huge audience. There are a lot of unsaved people in the churches, but they're open to stories about faith and God. They don't gravitate to those stories. They're watching Prime and Netflix and everything else. They didn't cancel it when Netflix had Cuties, but they're still open to something that is legitimate faith. So yeah.
I'm a viewer of films. I believe in Christian films. I teach college students. They're a little jaded sometimes about Christian films, and I have to tell them, be careful when you take away what the Lord can do with that film. I believe in using it as an outreach. I remember seeing I Can Only Imagine 8 times in a theater because I was taking other people to see it. I've seen Jesus Revolution 4 times, going to see it again next week with someone because it is an outreach. And to be able to share something like that with someone, or if they ask you, what do you think of? And I don't want to tear that Christian film apart. I want to use it as a means of pushing the gospel forward and encouraging other people to see Christian film. So anything we didn't cover, that last words, comments, concerns?
I would say one thing, and you touched on this, just don't be afraid to innovate and to try new things. I'm a big old Hollywood history nerd, and Warner Brothers was the first one to venture into talkie films, sound films, which is absolutely standard now. But back then, all of the other major studios thought it was a complete waste of money. Well, it turns out it was a massive hit. Who knew people wanted to hear the movies? And theaters across the country invested in sound equipment because that became the new industry norm. People, one of my favorite biographies, Walt Disney, he was ridiculed for trying to bring animation to the mainstream and for adult audience, for taking these kids' stories and making them appealing to adults. And he proved a lot of people wrong, but faced opposition after opposition after opposition of that's not what's mainstream. That's never gonna work. But once they got over that hurdle, it became mainstream. And so all of the great people throughout cinematic history that have made inroads and have changed the entertainment industry were the ones that were willing to innovate beyond what everybody else was doing, like a salmon going upstream. So don't be afraid to be like, you know what, I want to try something a little new that maybe hasn't been done before. You don't know what kind of impact that could have.
I want to make a personal plug, or a lobby, if I may. The world is tearing families apart. The church can bring families together. And, sorry, this is my why I get passionate about. We've got to tell stories about families coming together. Pure religion undefiled is taking care of the orphans and the widows. And if you didn't see Show Me the Father, the issue of fatherlessness and broken homes and what's downstream of that in our culture, if I can just make a personal plea to put a theme. I mean, Shazam has this beautiful foster group home in the story, and he's a foster kid, and he actually finds his biological mother. That's just a great way to just sort of normalize what bringing families together looks like. And the church has such an opportunity to do that. So.
Yeah, this is probably a very church answer, but I would just say pray without ceasing. Just pray for everything that you do. I mean, just when you start your day, if you're working on something or starting to work on something or have an idea, just pray and just ask for God to give you wisdom and direction, because you know he's going to be able to probably make more out of something or an idea that you have than you would, you know, in your own strength.
Well, I think that's about it. Next on the agenda is lunch, and you all probably are around if someone stops you to ask you a question. Very knowledgeable. Well, thank you for your
Thanks,
time, and
everybody,
thank
for
you for your questions.
participating.
Hello. Thanks for coming, everybody. We hope you thoroughly enjoyed it. So do we have lunch next, right over here at the Fellowship Hall, 12:30. So about a 15-minute break there. Remember, Lost and Found